There's something profoundly magnetic about a man who carries peace within himself, a man who doesn't let the world rattle his soul, who doesn't lose his center when life throws challenges his way. Women notice this energy instantly. It's not about how loud he is or how tough he pretends to be. It's about the quiet power in how he handles chaos. When everything around him is breaking down, his calm becomes her comfort. His steadiness becomes the ground she can stand on when her own emotions feel heavy. This kind of calm is not born out of indifference, but out of self-mastery. It's the kind of energy that tells her, I'm not afraid of life and I'm not afraid of emotions. A man who has emotional control doesn't suppress what he feels. He understands it. He recognizes when he's angry, hurt, or triggered, but he doesn't let those emotions dictate his behavior. That self-awareness is rare, and it speaks volumes without a single word. A woman may not openly say it, but when she sees a man handle an argument without shouting or remain composed when plans fall apart, she feels something shift. It tells her he's grounded, mature, and trustworthy. Because deep down, women seek emotional safety. They want to know that the man beside them won't crumble or explode when life gets hard. This calm doesn't come from pretending to be emotionless. It comes from understanding your emotions so deeply that they no longer control you. It's emotional intelligence, a quiet masculine presence that doesn't need to dominate or demand to be respected. The respect comes naturally. Women feel it in how he listens more than he reacts, in how he observes before he responds. It's an energy that says, I'm not here to fight you, I'm here to understand. And that kind of presence feels safe. It creates space for her to open up, to be vulnerable, to trust, because she knows he won't use her emotions against her. When a man is calm, it also reflects how much control he has over his inner world. His peace isn't dependent on validation, attention, or approval. He's centered in who he is. That stillness is powerful. It gives a woman the unspoken message that she doesn't have to fix him, that he's not looking for her to complete him. He's already whole. Women find that incredibly attractive, even if they never say it, because a man who can manage his emotions can manage his life. And when a man can manage his life, he becomes someone a woman can truly trust with hers. In moments of conflict, that calm becomes everything. When she's emotional or overwhelmed, she doesn't want a man who adds more fire. She wants one who can hold space, who doesn't react to her intensity with anger, but with understanding. Who knows how to stay steady, to let her express herself and then bring clarity instead of confusion. That's not weakness, that's strength in its highest form, because it takes far more power to stay composed than it does to lash out. And when a man shows that kind of restraint, it's not that he's being passive, he's being wise. He understands timing, tone, and energy. There's a silent confidence that lives in that calmness, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything. A man who's at peace with himself doesn't chase validation or compete for dominance. His presence alone speaks of quiet authority. He walks into a room and doesn't have to say much. People feel his energy, and women especially pick up on it immediately. It's in his body language, in the way he listens, in how he moves. There's something deeply attractive about a man who can be still while others are restless. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. It's a kind of grounded masculinity that says, I'm not here to control, I'm here to lead with balance. That kind of calm builds trust, not just in relationships, but in everything he touches. Because calmness is a reflection of inner discipline, and discipline is magnetic. It's a sign that he has control over his mind, his words, and his actions. He doesn't let temporary emotions cause permanent damage. And in a world that glorifies impulsivity, that restraint stands out. It's rare, it's powerful, and it leaves a lasting impression. Women may never say it aloud, but the truth is, they feel safest, most connected, and most feminine around a man who knows how to be calm when the storm hits. There's an undeniable strength in a man who knows where he's going. Not because he has everything figured out, but because he has direction, a reason that pulls him forward. A man with purpose carries an energy that's impossible to ignore. It's in the way he walks, the way he speaks, the way he moves through life with intention. Women may not always verbalize it, but they are deeply drawn to that energy. Purpose gives a man depth, it gives him focus, and it sets him apart from those who drift aimlessly through life. His goals don't have to be grand or world-changing. It's the commitment behind them that matters. A man who wakes up every day striving to become better radiates something that no charm or appearance can replace. A purpose-driven man isn't distracted by temporary highs or external validation. His sense of direction keeps him steady when life tests him. That kind of stability is rare and incredibly magnetic. It tells a woman that he's not easily swayed by emotions or trends, that he's guided by something bigger than himself. And that's what creates attraction on a deeper level. Not the surface level excitement, but the silent confidence that comes from knowing who you are and what you stand for. When a man is connected to his mission, he becomes more than just someone to date. He becomes someone to trust, to believe in, to respect. Purpose shapes a man's character. It builds discipline, patience, and resilience. It teaches him how to stay grounded when things don't go his way, and women notice that, even when they don't mention it. When she sees a man working towards something, no matter how small, she feels inspired by his drive. It tells her that he values growth over comfort and that he's not afraid of challenges. Because deep down, women don't fall for men who are perfect. They fall for men who are becoming. They fall for that quiet determination, for the way he handles failure, for the way he keeps showing up, even when no one is watching. There's a subtle difference between ambition and purpose. Ambition is wanting more. Purpose is knowing why you want it. A man with purpose doesn't chase goals to impress others. He chases meaning. That difference changes everything, because a woman can feel when a man is operating from ego versus when he's operating from vision. The man who leads with purpose doesn't need to prove himself through money, status, or recognition. His fulfillment comes from growth, contribution, and alignment with his values. And that authenticity is magnetic. It draws women in not because he's trying to impress them, but because his energy speaks of direction and depth. When a man has purpose, it also influences how he shows up in relationships. He doesn't lose himself in love. He doesn't depend on his partner to give his life meaning. He brings purpose into the relationship rather than trying to find it through it. That's powerful. It creates balance, and where love becomes a choice, not a need. Women are naturally drawn to that energy because it creates emotional safety. It tells her that he won't crumble under pressure, that he won't lose his identity in the process of loving her. Instead, he'll invite her into his world, into his growth, into his vision. That sense of partnership built around purpose is what gives relationships longevity and depth. A purpose-driven man also inspires the people around him. He moves with a quiet fire, one that doesn't scream for attention but still lights up every room he walks into. He's not distracted by gossip or meaningless drama because his focus is on something higher. That kind of focus demands respect. Women admire men who are passionate about something, whether it's their career, their art, their faith, or a personal mission. Passion signals emotional maturity. It shows that he can commit, that he can build, that he can sacrifice for something greater. In a world full of distractions, a man with purpose becomes a rare presence. He doesn't need to talk about his goals constantly. His consistency speaks for him. His habits, his discipline, and his clarity reveal his direction more than his words ever could. Women sense that energy, that quiet, unstoppable drive, and it draws them in naturally. Because purpose gives a man a sense of peace, and that peace gives a woman something to believe in. It's not about perfection or success, it's about direction and the kind of inner strength that can only come from knowing what you're truly living for. There's a unique kind of power in a man who carries quiet confidence. It's not loud, it's not showy, and it doesn't need validation. It's the kind of confidence that lives in his presence rather than his words. Women notice it immediately, even if they can't explain it. It's in the calm way he walks into a room, the way he maintains eye contact without trying to dominate, the way he listens with intention rather than rushing to prove a point. This kind of confidence is rare because it's not built on ego, it's built on self-awareness. A man who truly knows himself doesn't need to convince anyone of his worth. He simply is. And that quiet self-assurance is far more attractive than any form of arrogance ever could be. Arrogance shouts, but confidence whispers. Arrogance needs attention to survive, but confidence is content in silence. Women feel this difference instantly. A man who is subtly confident doesn't chase validation, nor does he try to compete with others to feel powerful. He doesn't need to talk about his achievements or prove that he's better than anyone else. Instead, his strength lies in his energy, a calm, grounded energy that communicates, "I know who I am." That energy creates comfort instead of intimidation. It draws people in naturally because it feels genuine and safe. Women are especially sensitive to this distinction. They can sense when a man is performing confidence versus when he's living it. True confidence comes from a man who's accepted himself fully, the good, the flaws, the failures, all of it. He's not pretending to be perfect, and he's not afraid to admit when he doesn't know something. That honesty creates authenticity, and authenticity is magnetic. A woman feels it when a man is real with her, when he's not wearing a mask to impress. She feels it in the steadiness of his voice, in the way he handles mistakes with grace instead of defensiveness. A confident man doesn't hide from his imperfections, he owns them. And that ownership makes him even more attractive because it shows strength without arrogance. Confidence also reveals itself in how a man treats others. An arrogant man needs to belittle people to feel strong. A confident man uplifts others because he's secure in himself. He doesn't see other men as threats or women as trophies. He moves through life with quiet assurance, knowing that his value isn't diminished by anyone else's shine. That's the kind of presence that makes women feel respected rather than objectified. It's the energy of a man who's comfortable in his own skin, someone who doesn't need to manipulate or control to feel powerful. This humility, paired with strength, forms the perfect balance between masculine power and emotional intelligence. Subtle confidence is also seen in how a man responds to rejection, failure, or setbacks. An arrogant man takes it personally. He feels insulted, humiliated, or angry, but a confident man sees it as part of growth. He doesn't crumble when something doesn't go his way because his self-worth isn't dependent on outcomes. That emotional resilience is incredibly attractive. It shows that he's stable, mature, and emotionally grounded. Women pick up on that stability. It tells them that he can handle life without falling apart, that he's not fragile behind his charm. And in a world where so many people seek constant approval, that kind of inner peace stands out like light in darkness. A subtle kind of confidence also changes the way a man communicates. He doesn't dominate conversations or try to impress through exaggerated stories. He speaks with purpose, he listens with presence, and he knows when silence is more powerful than words. That level of emotional control shows deep awareness. It's not that he's shy or withdrawn, he simply doesn't feel the need to perform. He's comfortable enough to let moments breathe, to give others space to express themselves. That balance of assertiveness and ease is what makes him feel different. It's what makes women want to know more, to understand the calmness that lives behind his eyes. This kind of confidence doesn't seek approval. It invites respect. It's not the result of external achievements, but of inner work. It's a man who's taken time to understand himself, to know his purpose, to heal his insecurities. That inner peace radiates through everything he does. Whether he's speaking, working, or simply sitting in silence, his presence carries weight. Women don't fall for the loudest man in the room. They fall for the one who can stand quietly and still command attention. It's not a performance, or it's a reflection of authenticity. And that authenticity becomes the most powerful form of attraction because it's real, steady, and deeply human. There's a quiet strength in a man who can make a woman feel safe without trying to control her. It's a balance that many fail to understand, the difference between protection and possession. Protection is rooted in care, control is rooted in fear. Women are deeply drawn to the kind of man who provides emotional, mental, and physical safety without ever making her feel confined. He doesn't need to dictate her actions or limit her freedom to prove his love. Instead, his presence alone gives her peace. It's the way he stands beside her, not in front of her. The way he listens when she's overwhelmed, not to fix her, but to hold space for her. That energy, calm, grounded, and secure, is something women feel instinctively. It tells her she can relax her guard, that she doesn't have to protect herself from him. A protective man doesn't use his strength to dominate. He uses it to create safety, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. He becomes her safe place, not her cage. When he walks with her, he's aware of his environment, but not paranoid. When she's speaking, he listens with empathy instead of trying to silence her. When she's hurting, he's present without making her pain about himself. That kind of presence is what allows a woman to open up completely. It's what makes her trust that she can be soft around him. Because true protection is not about building walls around her. It's about creating peace within her. This kind of man understands that protecting a woman is not about rescuing her. It's about supporting her strength, not replacing it. He knows she's capable, but he still chooses to stand by her side when things get heavy. He doesn't make her feel weak for needing comfort. He makes her feel safe for being human. That balance between strength and gentleness is what women secretly love. They don't want to be controlled or overpowered. They want to be understood and respected. A man who can protect her while honoring her independence holds a kind of power that can't be faked. It's emotional maturity, it's masculine restraint, it's love without fear. A man who carries protective energy also has emotional intelligence. He knows that safety isn't just physical, it's psychological. It's in the way he speaks, the tone he uses, and how he handles disagreement. He never uses words to belittle or threaten. His communication is steady, thoughtful, and kind, even when he's firm. That steadiness makes her feel secure enough to express herself fully. She doesn't have to filter her emotions or walk on eggshells around him, because she knows he won't react impulsively. His protection is in his presence, his consistency, his calm, his integrity. And when a woman senses that, she softens. She doesn't have to be defensive, she can be vulnerable. Protective energy also shows in subtle gestures. It's in the way he makes sure she's comfortable when they're out, how he walks on the outer side of the street, how he checks if she got home safely, or how he pays attention to the details she never mentions. It's not about control, it's about care expressed through awareness. These actions may seem small, but they speak volumes about his character. They tell her he notices, that he values her safety and peace of mind, and that creates emotional security, the kind that builds unspoken trust. Control, on the other hand, comes from insecurity. It's rooted in the fear of losing her, in the need to dominate so she won't leave. But protection that comes from love doesn't trap her, it empowers her. A protective man encourages her to grow, to explore, to shine. He doesn't feel threatened by her independence, he celebrates it, because he knows her strength doesn't take away from his, it complements it. That understanding forms a bond that's deep and unbreakable. She feels cherished, not owned, supported, not restricted. True protection is invisible but deeply felt. It's in the way a man carries himself, how he treats people, how he reacts under pressure. It's his ability to remain composed when things get difficult, to be a source of steadiness rather than chaos. A woman feels safe around that kind of energy because it's consistent, calm, and rooted in respect. She doesn't have to guess his intentions or doubt his loyalty. He shows through his actions that he's dependable, that he values peace over power. That kind of protection builds emotional trust, the kind that doesn't need words, only presence. In a world full of promises, consistency has become a rare and powerful form of attraction. It's not the grand gestures or poetic declarations that make a woman feel secure. It's the quiet, steady actions that align with a man's words. Consistency reveals character. It shows whether a man's intentions are genuine or just temporary. Women notice everything, even when they don't say it. They pay attention to how a man follows through, to how his behavior matches what he claims to be. It's not about perfection, but about reliability. When a man says he'll do something and actually does it, not once, but every time, that builds trust. And trust, more than anything else, is what makes a woman feel safe enough to love deeply. Consistency is not about routine or predictability, it's about integrity. It's about a man being who he says he is, even when no one's watching. Anyone can be charming in the beginning. It's easy to say the right words and make promises when emotions are high. But it's what happens after that matters. When the excitement fades, when the challenges begin, that's when consistency separates the genuine from the performative. A woman can sense when a man's interest is rooted in truth or convenience. And when she finds someone whose actions remain steady regardless of mood or circumstance, she feels something deeper than attraction. She feels security. Consistency also means emotional stability. It's the ability to show up the same way in both peace and chaos. A consistent man doesn't love intensely one day and withdraw the next. He doesn't confuse her with mixed signals or unpredictable behavior. His energy stays grounded. His communication remains clear. That kind of stability is magnetic because it tells her he's emotionally mature. He's not running from connection or playing games with affection. He knows what he wants, and his behavior reflects it. This emotional steadiness gives her the confidence to trust his words because she sees proof in his actions every single day. A consistent man also respects time, both his and hers. He doesn't make promises he can't keep, and he doesn't offer attention just to fill silence. He values communication, not because it's convenient, but because it builds connection. If he says he'll call, he calls. If he says he'll be there, he shows up. These simple gestures might seem small, but they carry deep meaning. Because to a woman, consistency isn't just about reliability, it's about emotional honesty. It tells her that he means what he says and that his effort isn't dependent on circumstances or temporary feelings. Consistency is a reflection of discipline and self-respect. A man who can stay true to his word shows that he has control over himself, that he doesn't let impulse dictate his behavior. That discipline translates into every area of his life. It shows up in how he works, how he treats others, and how he builds relationships. And women are naturally drawn to that kind of steadiness because it communicates strength without arrogance. It's not about trying to be perfect, it's about being dependable. When a man's actions remain consistent, he becomes someone she can rely on, someone whose presence brings peace instead of confusion. In relationships, consistency builds emotional safety. It tells a woman that she can trust his love, that she doesn't have to constantly question where she stands. She doesn't need to chase reassurance because his actions provide it naturally. Every text, every promise kept, every time he shows up when it matters, it all becomes evidence of his sincerity. That's the foundation of true emotional connection. A woman doesn't need grand words when she has consistency because it speaks louder than any expression of love ever could. Consistency also sets the tone for respect. When a man is consistent, he teaches her how to feel secure without asking for it. His reliability becomes a silent form of affection, one that builds love that lasts, not love that burns out quickly. Women may not always articulate this, but they value the quiet assurance of a man who stands by his word. It makes her feel seen, prioritized, and valued. Because in the end, it's not the promises that matter most. It's the follow-through, the effort, and the presence that stays steady when everything else changes. There's an undeniable strength in a man who can be open without losing his composure. Authentic vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the highest form of emotional courage. It's when a man allows himself to be seen for who he truly is, not just the version he thinks the world wants him to be. Women are deeply drawn to this kind of man because his honesty feels real, refreshing, and safe. He doesn't hide behind pride or perfection. He's not afraid to admit when he's struggling, confused, or uncertain. This kind of openness doesn't make him less masculine. It makes him human. And that humanity is what allows deeper emotional connection to form, the kind that goes beyond attraction and into true intimacy. A man who can express vulnerability has done the inner work of self-awareness. He understands his emotions rather than suppressing them. He knows that pretending to be unaffected doesn't make him strong, it just makes him distant. When he shares his fears, his doubts, or his dreams with honesty, it invites authenticity into the relationship. A woman doesn't need him to be invincible. She needs him to be real, because realness creates trust. It tells her that he's not hiding behind an emotional wall. She doesn't have to guess what he's feeling because he's transparent enough to communicate it. That level of openness allows her to feel safe being vulnerable too, and that's where true emotional intimacy begins. Authentic vulnerability also means taking responsibility for emotions without projecting them. It's not about oversharing or seeking pity. It's about being emotionally mature enough to communicate truth without fear. A man who can say, "I felt hurt when that happened," instead of lashing out or withdrawing, shows a level of control and clarity that's deeply attractive. Women are naturally drawn to emotional honesty because it creates clarity instead of confusion. It removes the guessing game and builds mutual understanding. This kind of vulnerability doesn't demand attention. It invites connection. It doesn't seek to manipulate. It seeks to understand and to be understood. A man's vulnerability also shows in the way he admits mistakes. Instead of defending his pride, he's able to reflect and take accountability. That humility doesn't make him look weak, it makes him trustworthy, because a man who can admit when he's wrong is a man who can grow. And growth is one of the most attractive things a man can offer. It tells a woman that he values the relationship more than his ego, that he's capable of evolving instead of repeating the same patterns. Women feel that energy deeply. The calmness that comes from a man who can be humble without being submissive, honest without being fragile. There's also beauty in the way vulnerability allows a man to express love openly. Many men struggle to communicate affection, thinking it's a sign of softness. But when a man can express admiration, appreciation, and care without fear of being judged, it creates emotional depth. A woman feels seen, valued, and cherished in those moments. She senses that his words aren't calculated or forced. They come from authenticity. That kind of love feels different. It feels honest, steady, and emotionally rich. It's not performative, it's present. And that presence becomes a foundation for connection that can't be shaken by distance or time. True vulnerability also allows a man to connect with himself. It's the process of peeling away the layers of expectation, society's idea of masculinity, the pressure to always be strong, the fear of appearing weak. When he lets go of those masks, he finds freedom. That freedom radiates as confidence, not arrogance. Because a man who has faced his emotions and accepted them no longer fears them. He no longer hides behind toughness or silence. Instead, he carries a quiet assurance that comes from knowing himself completely. That authenticity is rare and magnetic because it speaks to emotional depth, not performance. Women can sense when a man is pretending to be strong versus when he's genuinely grounded. The difference lies in vulnerability. Pretending creates distance. Honesty builds closeness. When a man can speak his truth, hold space for his emotions, and still stand strong, he embodies balance. The perfect harmony between strength and sensitivity. That kind of energy invites peace, not tension. It creates safety, not confusion. It allows both people to show up fully without fear of judgment or rejection. And that's what women are silently drawn to. Not a man who hides behind walls, but one who has the courage to be real even when it's uncomfortable. At the heart of it all, what women secretly love in men isn't about perfection, looks, or charm. It's about depth. It's about the kind of man who leads with calm strength, who moves with purpose, who carries quiet confidence without arrogance. It's about the man who protects without controlling, who remains consistent when others fade, and who has the courage to be vulnerable without losing his composure. These traits don't come from pretending to be someone else. They come from self-awareness, discipline, and emotional maturity. When a man learns to master his emotions, stay aligned with his values, and act with integrity, he naturally becomes magnetic, not because he's trying to impress, but because his energy feels safe, grounded, and real. Women may never openly list these traits, but they feel them. They sense the difference between a man who performs masculinity and one who embodies it with quiet assurance. Every woman desires a man she can respect, trust, and emotionally connect with. Someone who doesn't just speak love, but shows it in his presence, his patience, and his actions. When a man lives this way, he doesn't need to chase love. Love is drawn to him. Because true attraction, the kind that lasts, is built not on words, but on character.